Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Phil Svitek, and today is what I'm calling a three-way mind meld, if you guys are Star Trek fans. I have James Lott Jr. and Flobo Boyce. You may have seen them on the podcast before, but never together at once. So, we figured, why not? Let's do it. Let's have a threesome. And then we cleared up what that meant. It wasn't that kind of threesome.
And I was disappointed.
I'm like, okay, I guess not. If that's not going to happen, sure. I've been quarantining for the last year, so I'm like, okay.
I know. Listen. We had to adjust based on COVID restrictions.
Well, just it's mind meld then. My mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts.
Indeed. So we're gonna get serious, but we're also gonna get silly. 2020 was a hard year, so I figure we deserve some silliness and things like that. But just to hit a heavy question right off the bat, 2021 intentions. What does that mean for, what are your intentions? It could be both personal, it could be professional. For me, I'll say one of the things that I think encompasses both professional and personal is I want to have three-dimensional relationships. None of this bullshit of, hey, how's the weather? Oh, it's good. How's work? Oh, it's good. That kind of crap. Like, no, we're going to talk. Boom, we're going to talk, let's get down to the nitty gritty. So, I don't, who wants to, should we draw straws? Who's going to go first? James is laughing. Maybe I should just put him on the spot.
Well, yeah, because you hate small talk, but.
Philip Svitek. Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I think for me, it's okay to have small talk relationships. It's okay to have light relationships. It's okay to have those relationships that aren't necessarily anything that has to do with anything. But as long as they're not negative. My thing is...
There's a difference between fun and nothing. So, but continue. I just wanted to just throw that in. I'm being defensive, I know.
I know, I'm triggering you, I guess. Let the old man speak. So, I will be clear in what I'm saying. No, my thing is, I get the gist of kind of what you're saying is that you want meaningful relationships, whether it's personal or professional. So I get that part, of course. But I've also had to recognize there are people in my life that I love, that people in my life that I like, that completely their job for me is just every once in a while we talk. It's usually light and breezy, easy breezy, and it's fine. Because I used to also get upset about that myself. Everybody has to be, I'm like, nah. At this point, some people, they serve a purpose sometimes when I need it. So for me, it's okay. But I make sure that whether it's serious or it's casual, they still add to my life on some level. And so and the addition of my life is, because I am three-dimensional, go with your word. I'm not all things serious or all things comedic or all things whatever, that they still fit in somewhere, that it's not detrimental or draining from me. So I'm trimming the fat with a lot of people. I'm just like, wow, you're done. I mean, they're all, I believe in that. And I just think, and I'll cut a bitch in a second. I'm like, good night, everybody. I'm done. But I do find that some folks really serve a lighter purpose, just to go with the thing you were saying, that I don't mind so much sometimes. Sometimes it's okay to have it. But if that's all I had and nobody's serious, well, that would drive me crazy. But everybody has a part. They're all got parts in the pie of my life.
Well, listen, I mean, isn't it the Beatles that said, time wasted that you enjoyed wasting is not really time wasted? So,
right, exactly.
That's a good way.
My aunt has a saying. My Aunt Faith always says, sometimes you have to learn how to do nothing well. Meaning, just sometimes fucking relax. Don't do nothing. Just sit there and lay down. It's okay to do that every once in a while. If you do it all the time, then it's a problem. But every once in a while, it's okay to do nothing well.
Well, listen, a lot of people could use that advice. There's a lot of people doing nothing and really stressing out about it, but that's a whole nother story. We're going to put a pin on that. Flobo.
No, I'm defensive. What are you trying to say, Phil? No, I'm just kidding. I'm with you, James. I do think everyone has a reason in the season, but I think the question was intentions for 2021.
Yeah, for you. I don't care. I don't care. You don't have to like clap back at James. You clap at your own self.
No, I was clapping back at you, Phil. What are you talking about? I like small talk.
James, you didn't really answer the question, so let me answer the question correctly.
No, not even.
Go ahead and do it.
No, because I agree with you, James. I love small talk. I think even though I do shows, small talk for me, that sussing out period where you get to know someone, they're on a show, they're cold. To me, there's some fun in that. There's wrestling in that. I know it's very cool and in vogue to be like, I'm not really into that, but I relish it. Can I wrestle with that person? Can I find common ground? That's just me personally. But to answer your question, 2021 is definitely about. 2020 was definitely a year of me building the shack, because I just had my tools in my house, but now I think I'm ready for that open house. And whatever that may be, I may need more fans or more haters so to push me to create better stuff or to do different things, but I think I'm ready now to have different audiences see my work. And that's the one thing, whether it is putting on myself in different websites, whether it's going on tour, doing other people's podcasts. I really think that 2021 is about people knowing about good old Flobito. You know what I'm saying?
Love it. Well, listen.
I have to do one thing really quick.
All right. Well, listen, we're just going to keep the conversation going while James does whatever he's got to do.
If it's a podcast version, he actually wheeled away in his chair. I just want you guys to know that.
He just left.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm getting the clear sense that you guys want to have a little bit of fun. So I can vouch for this. You can see it on here. We're going to have a laugh off. That was going to come later.
A laugh off. Oh, you know I win. Hello, I have the craziest laugh and most famous laugh on earth.
Listen, the votes aren't in until all the votes are in. This ain't a Trump rally. Yeah, I got him to laugh.
Yeah.
Flobo, give us your best laugh.
You got to help me out here, man. I don't know. Do I do it on a James Lott Jr. impression? Because I can't do that at all.
See, look at you laughing already.
Because it's a laugh off. I love it. Okay.
And for context, like James has a very distinctive laugh. Flobo, I love when he laughs, and he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily. I don't think a lot of people have really seen me laugh, but when I laugh, I laugh.
Oh, I've seen you.
Actually, now that you mention it, yeah, you kind of smirk and move on. That is kind of.
Yeah, I've seen you laugh.
I do kind of that thing.
It's like you have like a caption, like "I am pleased," and that's just it.
See, there we go. Flobo runs the jokes, and we laugh.
Exactly. That's Josh's job.
Audience, vote now. You can text to 555-555. Not really. That's not a real number.
8675309.
I met the guy who wrote that song. His name is Terry Nails.
He's like,
we were at the same radio station back in the day.
How is he?
Oh, he's a cool guy. He's kind of like, hey man, open doors, but kind of tired of that song. I was like, I would be too. I would be too.
Yeah, me too.
Right on. All right, well, let's get back to the serious a little bit. I'm very curious, right? Because I think there's this. It's almost like in life, right? Unless you define things for yourself, you're just kind of grasping at the collective pool, if you want to call it that, right? And so you end up with dreams or definitions that aren't really your own, but you're kind of working towards them, and it doesn't really fit right. So in your own head, what defines success? And we'll start with Flobo first this time, then we'll go to James. We'll keep mixing it up.
Yeah, that is the golden question. Because if you're not careful, you can move the chains and chase the dragon. When I was in 9th grade, success was becoming a high school graduate. And you can imagine if I was like, I'm done. We always do that. And I always try to write down every year, every 2 years, what I think success is. And I always say this: if I'm able to have a career where I'm financially stable, being able to be myself, whether it is a DJing side of it, whether it's a podcasting side of it, and I can inspire others, then and actually, say that back, I don't want to inspire others. Inspiration comes down to how you interpret my content. I mean, I want to be a positive influence as far as the stuff I put out. Then I think that's successful. You know what I mean? I'm from a part of time. I'm from a community where we always equate our net worth to our self-worth. And unfortunately, yes, if I'm not financially stable, I don't think I'm successful in that way. But I also know that money can't be everything. But I'm able to do that and live off that by being Flobito, then that's all gravy.
Right on. Love it. James?
I'm going to be that sappy person that I learned that success for me is waking up.
Okay. That's a good one.
I mean, it sounds hokey and corny. You both know my story. So, I mean, a lot of people know my story out there. I've had very strong, challenging years of my life over time where waking up and not being able to do anything was the craziest thing of my life. Like Bell's palsy and all the stuff that I went through there. It redefined everything for me. The losses in my life that I've had. I had a loss again like 3 or 4 days ago in my life. Success has become, if I can wake up in the morning and do something, that's success. It really is. I mean, everything else is kind of subjective to me. It's like everybody has their own bar of success. Everybody has their own line of what makes them that successful. And I watch everybody fighting over for themselves. Am I successful? Am I not successful? If I do this, if I get this, and I'm like, I get to wake up, first of all, and I live in a home that's successful. It doesn't matter how big my home is or what it is. I do own it and everything, but it's still, I wake up in a home. When I was in an apartment, I felt the same way. When I lived in a studio apartment, I felt the same way. It didn't matter. If I got a place to live, that's being successful. The fact that I can get out of bed and half my bones hurt because I'm old now, but I can still walk to the toilet, that's success. Having a bowel movement is success at my age at this point. Being able to take my pills for the various ailments I have, that's success. I mean, I really do. I feel like my day, if I survive my day and get to go to sleep again, that's success.
And yeah, very well said. And you had that wonderful interview with Roxy Stryer, who we know and love. So I'll link to that interview if for those interested in really hearing the full story, right? I think that's the best version of that. Yeah.
It was one of my favorite interviews with her.
Yeah, and for me, for me, success is, I've kind of made this like my thing. People just kind of look at success of like, oh, I got to make $1 million and things like that. For me, I'm like, I just want to be middle class in that sense, but still make the art that I want to and things like that. And I don't think you need to make millions in order to like consider yourself a successful artist. I think there's a way to do what you want to do with all that.
Well, it's so funny. I because I do so many different things, and in each thing that I do, there is a level of people think success is this. I'm on the Billboard charts, and I have music. I have 7 albums out. I mean, that's a big deal. Success was finding producers, being able to write the songs, having a voice to perform the songs, getting background singers, getting musicians. I mean, that's the success right there. And the completed album. It's not easy to complete an album. I've completed 7 of them. I mean, that to me, that's success. Others might think, well, you're not on the charts. You're not number 1. You're not this. That to me is like, it just makes no sense. To me, doing that, putting a book out. We all put our books out. That is success. To actually write a goddamn book and put it out, that's not easy. And to actually complete a book, edit it, put it out there to the public, that's success. So, I feel like in the fields that we work in, there's all that whole, you're right, all that whole, like, you gotta do this, me this, me that. I'm like, I've done speaking engagements, I've done all these things. I made some money. I made big money, small money. It doesn't matter. All that's just, again, subjective. But it's completion of something. That to me, or even starting something, that's success.
Well, I also look at it this way, like the whole chasing of like followers or whatever, right? Let's look at it this way, right? You have 500 million followers, let's say, on social media platforms. Great, wonderful. That's still 7.5 billion people in theory that have never heard of you and could care less, right? And, I don't know about you guys, and, feel free to weigh in on this, but I've been in that position before where I put myself as higher than somebody else where I'm like, hey, wait, you don't know this person? How could you not know? Like, it's almost like a rite of passage of like, you're not part of this business till you know X, Y, and Z. They have 100 million followers. They're really important, blah, blah. And conversely, people have done that to me. And now I just kind of go like, if people do that with me, I'm just like, yeah, but you've never been to Slovakia or something like that, right? Because it's basically we're saying that none of us are going to know everything. And so to pretend that we're higher and mightier than anyone else for knowing X fact versus another fact, it's like, it's all bullshit.
Wow. Jade and Phil, I love it. No, I think there's some truth to that. I do think that.
Just some?
No, there's a lot of truth to that, but there's a little bit of a caveat there, and I'll explain what I mean by that. When it comes down to the people who have the creative spark, so the thinkers, the doers, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, there is classically been a pursuit of validation. I know social media gets a bad rap, but 400, 500 years ago, the goal was to get a patron, to get someone to pay for you to create your paintings while you eat grapes and wonder about getting a real job. So there's an actual root to that. And I guess we're all harking back to a time where we knew everyone that followed us on social media and go, oh, I have 500 followers or 1,000 followers. But it does get inflated. You can buy followers, you can buy promotions. And it's funny how, especially as a comedian or as a host, that you're getting booked, your worth as an artist is being tied to these faceless masses. And that's where it becomes destructive. Because it's very easy to sit back and say, man, social media, it's all fake, bro. But to be fair, when I create stuff, what's my amplification channel? It's social media. So, I mean, double-edged sword in spades. But I do think that when it comes down to that dynamic, then you could put yourself in a very bad position thinking that if you don't know X, Y, Z, then you ain't nobody or what have you.
No.
I guess I've never been a group mentality person. I've always been this way. Ask my mother, anybody older than me, James was a little old man doing his own thing out the womb. So I never followed what people told me I should follow. So I never got offended by anybody saying anything to me. Just now I walk the earth that way. I still do. People are like, well, if you say you don't know so-and-so, I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know people. I don't think about it so much. So when it comes to followers and stuff, for me, I know it's a crapshoot. You can have 10,000 followers and have 3 likes on and no engagement on your pictures. I'd rather have 500 followers and 30 people retweeting my stuff and actually watching it. I'd rather have that. To me, that's more rewarding for me. But I've never chased a follower thing. I always feel like it could be like, I had a video go viral a couple weeks ago, and that gave me like 500 new followers on YouTube. That's a lot in like
Congrats, man.
Period.
Congrats.
Thank you. But again, it's a crapshoot. I did a video that people I ended up liking, and they decided to watch my channel. I didn't really do anything any different than I normally do. I put out videos all the time, as you guys know. Now it happened, that video hit. So I just know how it's up to the media gods, whatever is going to happen. I really have no control. I have very little control on growth in that way.
Well, that's my thing is, I'm not necessarily knocking like people viewing their follower counts and things like that. I guess if I had to clarify it in any sort of way, it's the fact that like everyone is inflating it and just trying to like, artificially like showcase something that it's not true. I'm a big proponent of like, let's just get down to brass tacks and what is the truth. If you got fucking 50 people, you got fucking 50 people. You got 1,000 people, great, whatever the case may be. And I think, for my money's worth, I'd rather lean into going off of what James said, lean into those people and give them what I got. And that, if I bring those people value, they'll spread it and so forth. But to like inflate my own head of like, I bought followers in X, Y, and Z, I just don't see that as a healthy path, because there's no, it's already fake to begin with.
Well, I am shading them. So I'll shade it for 3 years. I will shade them. I am shading and shaming them. People who do that, and it gets very tired. It's that whole mentality, especially here in Los Angeles, of being above your means, putting yourself as somebody you're not. Trust me, I understand the whole, dress for what you want to be, that kind of thing. I grew up in that kind of era. But this takes it to another level that's, to me, is ridiculous. And again, like you said, you got 50 followers, treat them like gold, and it will come back to you. It will come back to you. And we ought to start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere. I start with 0 followers, and we had to start somewhere. And then you have to kind of like live that and be the big fish in the small pond. Stop worrying about being this huge fish in the sea. Who cares about that? Just be the big fish in the small pond.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, 100%. I had a thing, but I forgot it, so maybe I'll come back to it. What's the most useful tool in your toolbox? Of course, tool being, I'm not talking about, listen, it could be a monkey wrench if you really want to, but.
My left-handed scissors.
Yeah. Hey, wait, you make apps or just like Resolve or?
Anything. Listen, I honestly, I could see the left-handed scissors as being one of James's actual.
We're all left-handed here, so we're all left-handed, so these are I love these.
I interpret the question as you will, you know.
Flobo, flobito.
Well, I think content-wise, well, I'll say this. I'll do the app first. I think the most important app I have is Canva. I think that helps me out with all my design for now until I can get like a team. It's free. I do all stuff myself. But when it comes down to like my approach to what I create, luckily for me, that my overarching dream is comedy. And so when I create these after shows or these podcasts, I know I'm going into saturated marketplaces to the point where so many people don't even bother getting into the pool in some of these things. Like wrestling after shows are saturated. Podcasts about talking to creative people, it's not really a hot concept. But I do think when people come in and when they tune into Flobo Boyce, is that I am a comic and I try to find the levity of any situation. And so I won't name names again, but like one of my friends wanted to do a show about her mental health as a creator. And she came to me because she felt comfortable that I was able to do it in a way where I didn't make it a very special episode, but I wouldn't want to make light of it either. You know, I do a Star Trek after show. We laugh all the time about how weird that show is because we are Star Trek fans. We love to have a good time. So I definitely approach things comedy first, levity first. I think that's a secret sauce.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and it does make things very more palpable. Mm-hmm. So, James, what about you? Is it the scissors or something else?
I'm half joking. These scissors are like the bomb. But no, for me, the biggest tool in my toolbox is my ability to make people feel comfortable. I use that in every single part of my life. I've discovered, I mean, I have the magic. Apparently, I don't know where I got it from, but ever since I was in high school I realized at some point that I have a way of making people feel comfortable, and that's worked to my advantage in my jobs, in my careers now, in my interviews, in my organizing, and everything that my life, everything that I do, and my friendships. Apparently, I have a way of making people feel comfortable, and I feel like that's a big tool because I can actually affect change or help people affect their own change sometimes through my being a comfortable person to be around.
I think in the spirit of which is intended, I think it's your apathy. No, in a sense, right? I know I'm using that word facetiously, but it's like you could care less if they like you or not. You're not out to like get them or make them like you or whatever. You're just being in that sense, like your apathy towards that side of it allows you to be an authentic you. And it's like, holy shit, you know, and I think that's like, if you want to get psychosomatic, like that's what people are drawn to is an authentic person, right? You know, that's why we all got to shed these masks and these roles and shit like that, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah, Flobo. Unless you're wrestling.
Well, Phil, you know me the longest. Phil, you know, you and I know each other almost nearly 6-7 years at this point, so you know me the longest. And so you're right. I mean, you're right. I don't care. I mean, I really don't give two shits. I mean, like me, don't like me. Here I am.
I think that matters to be able to be your true self. I think authenticity is something you can't fake, which sounds kind of recursive. But you know what I'm saying? There's people that try to do the persona of I'm real in the streets, but like James is 100% James all the time. You know, I mean, I'm Flobito 100% of the time.
Wait, I'm going to Flobo, I'm going to throw it to you in the sense because I think this could be interesting, right? So I'm a wrestling guy, but not as much as you. How does it work in terms of, because obviously when you're wrestling, you're putting on a fake persona per se, right?
Yeah.
But in that sense, you know, there is an authenticity nonetheless with what resonates and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you know, how would you be able to, you know, if you have to break it down, like what is that distinction? Because I think it does apply beyond just wrestling. I think it applies to art. You know, we are putting something forward that is, you know, something fictitious, but still resonates, right? So
wrestling was two-tiered. On the base level, it's a combat sport. Whether it's entertainment or the results are predetermined, you have to believe that the person can fight somebody else. But I always say this, and I always get flack for it, but on my shows, no one can get flack for me because it's my shows. You know, I do think that professional wrestling is theater in the round. It's our Cirque du Soleil. It's our Hamilton. right? So the words and the costumes can be from a different period. But if the actor pours him or herself into the role that they're given, you can see that radiate through what is being said and what's being in the ring. And you can say, this person puts their whole heart out there. So yeah, it could be something weird. There's characters who are undead. There are characters that are looking like they're gangsters, guys who look like they own nightclubs. But if you could believe the character, or you could believe that this person could be a real threat, then that's what makes wrestling some of the best character work on television. I mean, that's why I'm a huge fan, because when I was in film school, my sound designer teacher told me a line about sound design that applied to every aspect of my life. And he goes, when you hit the sweet spot, you'll know it. It becomes almost like this thing, like almost like a subconscious ethereal thing. You're like, oh, that's great. The right note in a guitar string, the right person, the right promo, like the right note in a song. And that's when you know someone's hit it right.
Mm-hmm. Right on. That's a good way to put it. What's been everyone's best failure? Here's a fun one. I mean, if it helps, I can go first.
Please do. Whew.
Shit, that backfired.
Mike, you go first. That's a very good question, Phil. You should be a host.
No, I thought it'd be a good one. My best failure. It's kind of tough, and I'm not trying to like tiptoe around it, but I think, the thing is, I always fail no matter what I do, but then I kind of, based on that failure, continue at it and find a way around it. But as far as anything, I don't know. In college, I probably had some films that were overly ambitious and didn't turn out nearly close to even what I envisioned, right? So but I learned a lot, right? And especially in the arts, I think it's one of those things. You could say filmmaking, but I think all arts, it isn't until you do it that you actually start to get a grasp on it. Now, I'm not negating the craft side of it. You have to study the craft and the history of it, but nonetheless, you still have to do it in order to make some progress. So my college films would probably be the biggest failure.
They're probably great.
They're not.
They probably are. Probably fine.
They're probably Citizen Kane. Yeah.
I mean, listen. I think Michel Gondry, right? Who's done like Eternal Sunshine.
I love him. I have his whole video set. I mean, from Daft Punk to Kylie Minogue. I love his.
But you have the short films that he made.
Yes, I have the whole.
That's where I'm going with it. Yes, because he put out his weird short films that he's ever done, and it's like half of them you're like, what is this?
I love his work. His work.
That's Gondry for you.
Yeah.
We had to break down that script in film school. Eternal Sunshine. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a nightmare of how the visual effects are one day and how it was all laid out, but I think all the time.
Yeah. What about you guys? What's the best failure of your life?
Well, I'm a life coach, so there's words I take out of my vocabulary. That's what it's all the time, and the word failure is not my vocabulary. So for me to answer this question will be very interesting, because I don't believe in failure. I don't believe there's such thing as failure. I think that's something that we just word we made up to shame each other and feel bad. I think there are things that just don't work out the way you may have hoped, or outcomes that may have not come the way you would like to have an outcome. So for me, to answer that question, there are a million different little outcomes that didn't work out the way I want them to. Going to nursing school, becoming a nurse, and then deciding I don't want to be a nurse anymore. Dumb. But I did it, and it did help. But see, all those little outcomes also help fuel those things we call success, in quotes. Yeah. So they become part of my fiber of my being. I had a couple of interviews that didn't go really well. My hosting career. I mean, not every interview's a star. There's some interviews that I'm like, oh, that wasn't the greatest. Some shows that wasn't the greatest. I have some songs in my vault that I will never release, but they didn't come out the way I would like them to have come out. So for me, it's just a series of lifetimes of just little bits of things that didn't go the way as planned, and that's what I'll answer that question.
All right. No, I appreciate it. I respect that. And yeah, I mean, part of the whole thing is to try to force people to see failure as a different thing in and of itself, as opposed to.
I agree with that.
This idea of like, oh my God, it's God forbid we like consider that things didn't go exactly as planned, and we just, again, that inauthentic side, we just hide it because we get shamed to death.
I agree with that.
Sure.
Flobo?
I have two failures, but they end up combining like Voltron. If I can, be so bold. So one of my podcasts, it's called New Amsterdam Radio, and it's a very distinct reason why it's called radio, because I had this like mental image of this giant city for creative people, and the radio station will be the one that's broadcasting the show. The name New Amsterdam was actually the name of my high grade stationery brand that I had launched in 2017. Because I felt that even though rappers and comedians have their phones, I think the true crafts people still write. And so I thought moleskins were too expensive. The other brands were too cheap and flimsy. I actually worked with a vendor overseas to create this notebook called a Notebook One, which I still have in a warehouse somewhere.
I want one.
I'll get you one, no, for sure. And it had the original stamp on it, the KA stamp, and it came here. And it flopped. Now, a bunch of reasons. I had a marketing plan that was going to be funded by my day job. My day job let me go. Didn't have a way to get the name out there, so it collapsed. That's like failure. That's failure right. Failure left. My modern podcast, because I've been podcasting since I was a teenager, before it was called that. It was called Internet Radio. My original podcast, you can still see like 5 episodes on SoundCloud. It's called 26 Stone. Stone is a unit of measurement. At my heaviest weight, I weighed 26.9 stone or 370 pounds. So I called this show 26 Stone. I sat down with people and I asked them how they struggle to make it in whatever they want to do. Very similar to Amsterdam Radio, but it was a lot more crude, a lot more like, how'd you do it kind of a thing. I did it for about a year and a half. I had 85 episodes. I even had the SoundCloud Premium, but my views never changed. I had the same 8 people downloading every week. And after a year and a half, I got frustrated. Like, some growth was okay, but no growth was just so I canceled it, deleted most of the episodes. Like 5 episodes still left on the internet. And that was failure too. And I remember one October, I was driving in my car and I saw a Facebook ad, because Facebook ads pushed to my phone this particular day, which I thought was kind of weird. So I pulled over, and the app I used to do my podcast on was like, hey, making podcasts from your phone. And I remember this. You can go back to episode 1 of New Amsterdam. It's called The Manifesto. And I said, here's this brand I love, New Amsterdam. I'm trying podcasting again. I don't know what this is. I learned I'm going to lower all expectations for this podcast. Give me a shot. I'm going to have 0 views. I don't care. I don't care if the same 8 people came back. And what happened is, over the 2 years after that, New Amsterdam has become like my flagship show. Like, more people have streamed that show as a podcast, and maybe compared to my after hours show, but those 2 are like the biggest ones. And that fuels me, because now I have creators from all over the world saying, can I be on your show now? So it was 2 disparate failures, but it kind of came in together for one.
That's awesome. Love that. Very cool. So I figured I'd ask a few more like serious questions, and then we'll get to some fun.
This is all fun. What are you talking about?
It is all fun.
I love talking about me. What are you talking
Well, we're going to talk about you. So I think a fun thing could be, what advice would you give? So everyone's going to go, right? Myself included. What advice would you give to the other people?
Okay.
So I have to give advice to you, Flobo, and James, Flobo to me, that kind of thing. So who wants to, James Lott Jr., when he does his things, he has like games, but half the time, like, you don't see the thing. So I'm just going to like pretend I'm going to do this. All right. It landed on Flobo.
And I'm telling advice to both you and James.
Got the spinning wheel like I did. The spinning wheel, Phil. He's got the spinning wheel.
Yeah, except no one sees that on screen. So I don't. You could just be. I don't know what you're spinning there.
It's funny I'm going first, because about a year ago, I thought that we should hang out and have like this meeting of equals. But I tell James this all the time. We went to a restaurant and it became this seminar as to Flobo, young blood, do it. So
yeah, we're not equals, Flobo.
So now it's kind of weird. Now trying to get this advice to people. I mean, how do you tell James Lott Jr. any advice? The one thing I would say for JLJ Media is I love it. To me, it's the platinum standard. I wish New Amsterdam Entertainment was on that level, but as someone who's watched every show, sometimes I would love to find a bit more distinction of the different shows. I'm not sure if that's questioning or like intro music or something. A lot of the shows do sound very similar. They're very good, but that's the one thing I would think about. One thing I do pride myself on, the logo for Draped in Gold is different than After Hours, which is different than whatever. But it's very cosmetic. But everything, James, you're great. Please don't unfollow me. You're good peoples. I love you like a brother. And Phil, I mean, I think you have given so much. If you haven't downloaded or bought your book, is it downloaded? Did you buy your book paperback?
There's a you can buy the workbook, which is a physical book, and then you can buy the digital copy as well.
Yeah, you guys should do that.
The digital copy is way cheaper, but yeah.
Yeah, because your polish and your content is so great. But I would say, man, don't be afraid to have fun. You know, you may be the smartest guy in the room, the most resilient guy, the most resourceful guy, but do not be afraid to act dumb with your guests, man. Like, just wild out, nerd out, just talk about some stupid stuff. Plug your movie Idol that's in the poster in the back here if you see the visual version of this. Why not, man? Have some fun.
Fair enough. No, I mean, no, that's good advice. And, for me, I always have such reverence. Like, even though I'm getting to interview my friends, because they all are, at the end of the day, I want to treat it like they are, like, let's say, whoever your idol may be, be it Beyonce, be it Barack Obama, like, I don't care,
Tony Danza.
Like, I want to treat it like on that level, so 100%.
Tony Danza, man, what's up?
We'll let the old man go last, so I guess I'll go. See, how's that fun for you, Flobo?
I like that. I like that, actually. I like that.
So I actually gave this advice to James a little bit ago, but I'm going to reiterate it because I think it's good advice. And that is, so I think James's heart is always in the right place and he always wants to help people. But you get to a certain point and you have to be selective. It doesn't make you a bad person, but you have to be selective. And so for me, I told James, I think you need a set of hurdles for people to, get your mentorship. And that's not negative. I told him, like, hey, listen, if people want me to mentor them, I'm happy to give it them their all, my time and so forth. But it's like, let's say in that sense, I put out a book that outlines like a base core value of what you should be doing. So read that first. And when you get through that, come back to me, because otherwise I'm just going to have to regurgitate the book for you anyway, in order to get to the stuff that we want. So do your homework and then we'll talk. And so I said that to James, like, you gotta do that with the people that come to you. You have so much out there. Just be like, hey, watch this episode, and this episode, or, read this book, whatever.
I agree.
And then come back to me. I think that would be that.
I actually have a private video where for people who ask about podcasting. I just did a private video one time, so I could just say, "There you go," because there's so much time I spent saying the same things over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why I do what I do. It's like I don't want to have to repeat myself. So when people ask me for stuff about how to do stuff, I mean, most of the time it's directly related. Like if I ever get asked the first time question, I'll answer it. But then, like, next week I'm like, all right, I got to do a video on this. That way I don't have to ever answer that question again, not because I don't want to, because I can get it out to more people. For you, Flobo, I think, no, I think you're a very funny guy and things like that. And I understand there's that humorous side to, like, self-deprecation and things like that. And perhaps that might be a way of dealing with, some of the past and things like that, and working through some of the stuff. Not saying it's not healthy, but be careful to not ever let, like, your humor really define your personality, and it's changing, right? I've seen, like, from even, as you say, from last year to this year, like, the growth that you've had is amazing. So if anything, continue on that growth. Don't go backwards. The only reason to go backwards is to learn a lesson that you can apply in the future. But to beat yourself up over shit in the past, who's that helping?
You told me that the first time we had hosting class. I'm totally hijacking your show now.
You can do it.
There is, so we used to be in this company called AfterBuzz, and there was a hosting class that Phil taught, and we had to do a fake show. and I was on the panel and I did my little like thing, but I was nervous because I didn't know what to expect here. I thought it was a big deal to be an AfterBuzz. What was I thinking? Anyway, I was like, oh man, Phil, I just want to make sure I got everything right. I'm asking you questions, and Phil was there smoking a virtual cigarette. I'm just kidding. He just kind of like, oh, it's great, it's all right. Just don't be that guy all the time. Just know what you did and grow. And I was like, you're right, Phil. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you don't have to be like, when you are you're at your best, right? When you're trying to put on like this persona of, being a host, it's like, no, that's just, rather than put on, you already are a host without having to go into a persona of a host, So, yeah, that's my advice.
I love it. So I will go with Flobito, and the thing about Flobito is that he is very smart.
Not true.
He's probably way smarter than me.
That's not true.
And you don't see. There we go.
It's not true though.
That's that self-deprecating crap.
Exactly. That's exactly. So Phil, it's my turn to talk. The old man is talking. So when I'm going off of Phil's thing actually for you too, because you are smart, you are funny, you've had lots of life experience. And I said this to you before, you have it, whatever that means, of course. I know it's subjective also, but I think you have it. And my advice to you is to embrace you more. Embrace who you are more, embrace all those sides. Don't be afraid to showcase them when necessary. It's okay to, show your smarts. It's okay to show other sides of you in your, whether it's the acting that we're doing together or your shows or your writing. I always challenge you all the time. So I'm like, I just think, I know you have it. You have it to me. You have it. But I think sometimes you downplay yourself a little too much. And my thing is, it's like, you're a great guy. So I'm like, and you're really talented and you're really smart. So I think, you'll never be like me and others who just like, I showcase my shit all the time. I don't care. But I feel like on some level you can find that ground that it's kind of like you're smart. You're a smart guy. So I think you should have more embrace yourself more. That's my advice to you.
I just want to say that I learned so much from you that I think we are on equal footing. That's what I'm saying. I'm not like being self-deprecating for the sake of being self-deprecating. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I do. I think very highly of him. And then Phil, I mean, we hit off from the very beginning. Like I said, I've known you for almost 6-7 years at this point. We hit off from the very beginning. You've always been a champion of my talent and my work from the very beginning. I mean, always. You always have been. I told you this before, but I will say it on camera. You always have been. And whatever I wanted to try, you were always open to listening and say, okay, well, what do you want to do? And like you would say, well, what do you want to do? And I come to you and like, here's my plan. And you're like, okay, James, go and do it. But you've always. So I think for me, I really want to see you really step into the coaching more. I want to see you step into. You're doing it. I mean, you're doing it, but I want you to step into it even more. I think that you have a lot to offer for being, for being so young. I've learned things from you also. The learning never stops. I think you're very earnest in your own education. I think that's something that's very important also. So my advice to you is to really step into the coaching and really, whether it's business coaching or content creation coaching or whatever that is for you, I think that's where you need to go. I think you have the potential. I know you read a lot of other people and you follow a lot of people, but I want folks to start quoting Phil Svitek. And I've quoted you a couple of times. So, I mean, I have. So I think that's what I want to see you step into, Mr. Phil Svitek.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, not negating it, I've always, one of my big strategies has always been like, I don't want to just say something that I can do something, right? Especially in the content creation side. Not that I'm like proving anything to anyone, right? This is purely from the bottom of my soul, right? Like I want to make a movie because I want to make a movie. But the added bonus for me has always been, well, when I make a movie and if somebody else is wanting to make a movie, well, I can tell them how to make a movie because I've done a fucking movie, And it's always, no, honestly, like it's always, and I actually, I think we all need to embrace compliments a little bit better. I mean, certainly I do. And And this week was really cool because I was talking to my friend Lauren Grasso, and I remember, when we were going to she's amazing. And musician, she's coming out with another single, a lot of great hits if you look up Lauren Grasso. But, she said to me, I was telling her about my next project, next feature film that I was doing. And I said, if I pull this off, it's going to be a miracle, like jokingly, knowing that, like, of course I could pull it off, but it's definitely ambitious. And she said, you know what, Phil, I remember when we started Idol, and I remember this day too, she was like, wait, how are we going to do this? Right? Because meaning shoot at Grand Central Market. I said, don't worry about it. We can do it. And that day, and I proved to her that it is possible to do that thing that, no one else thought possible. And so, in that sense, she was like, I'm never questioning you and your ability to just get something done if you set your mind to it. I was like,
yeah. I said this a bunch of times.
It's one of those things, Phil. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say a bunch of times that I saw Idol and I was like, Lauren Grasso just jumps off the screen, and I hit her up. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about you, but you have the aura. So yeah, it's pretty cool that she was down to be part of your camp.
Well, yeah. I've worked with Lauren Grasso, so on different things, and I just love her to pieces. I've seen her live. We've seen her live together, Phil, years ago. I mean, she's a spirit. She's a great spirit. She's just somebody who's a walking moment. I met her after before we did the Big Brother after show. I loved her from the very beginning, and I just think I support all of her stuff. I have Bell's palsy. She was there for me for various things, and she's a really kind person, but she's very electric. She's very talented.
Yeah, no, she really is. And I mean, one of the things I took really stock of, I'm very blessed to know the people that I know, and I say this because I was working on a friend's film, and they're without being disrespectful in any way, like they're kind of coming up, right? They're trying to make it, and I appreciate and respect the hustle, but I also noticed a couple things of that they have to learn and work on, right? Stuff that I learned and worked on years ago, right? And so for me, it gave me a nice barometer of like, holy shit, the people that I'm continually working with are on a really high level. And again, I'm not shitting on those people. Their time will come and I know they're going to get there because of the hustle that they continue to put in. So yeah, very.
It's okay. It's okay. No, the thing is, it's okay to have different tiers in these careers. You have to start somewhere. That's the whole thing. It's like, sometimes we're afraid to say, well, you're not as good, but it's not a dig or even shade or say, it's just saying that you're a beginner. You're starting out somewhere. I'm learning that with this audio drama stuff. I mean, when I first started, I don't know what the F I was doing. I was like, I'll record it, see what happens, but as I started doing these episodes and playing it around and trial and error, I'm getting better. That's how that works. So there are folks, like you said, as long as you have the drive, the hustle, the intention, all that, you will get there. It's okay to not be there yet. And it's okay if you're there already. I mean, I think, again, we can't be afraid of that. Everybody's not the same. I mean, I come from a generation who were kind of taught that maybe a little too much. But I raised kids that are your generation, and we were told everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's the same. It's like, no, bitches, you're not the same. You're really good at this, and you're not that good at it yet. But it's like, you will get there. So keep going. So there's no false sense of like, we're all equals and we're all this. And I've been in it for 10 years, you've been in it for 2. Like there's a difference. And I think it's okay to highlight the difference in a way that is still encouraging, like you're saying, Phil, is encouraging. But you can recognize there's a difference. I think there's no problem with that.
I don't want to say fear of failure because that sounds very like Instagram influencer. But when we think about a new creative pursuit, anyone's trying something new, there is a bit of trepidation of what if my first attempt it doesn't knock out of the park. Like there are other ways to move the bases around, triples, doubles, singles, if it's a baseball analogy. You know what I'm saying? I think for me as a stand-up comedian, when the stand-up clubs were closed in 2020, I said, how am I going to express comedy? Now, I don't know TikTok. I can't dance. I deleted the app, right? So I decided, yeah, exactly. I have no rhythm. No tiene ritmo. So I decided to, I'm doing the robot all the time. My mom was like, I can't believe you can't dance. Take after your father. All right. So anyway, I decided to.
Caribbean, what's wrong with you?
I know. I can eat Caribbean food. So I decided to try my hand at comedy music, and the song was called "Alone in the Club." You can stream it now here on Spotify or whatever. But I was a nervous wreck because it was something new. I didn't know what I was doing. I bought the beat and I was rapping over it, and I knew. And here's what the interesting thing is for all creatives. I knew either it was going to be Flobo, this is hilarious. It's the best thing I've ever seen. Or dang, brother, you tried. But the thing is, once you appreciate that, once you have to appreciate the different kind of responses you get, it becomes a lot easier. And I submitted, and thankfully, perhaps almost encouragingly, people love the song. Like, this is dumb. My brother was like, this is like Lil Dicky mixed with some Pitbull. And I was like, awesome, cool, why not? And now people are asking for sequels and all that stuff. I wouldn't have known that had I just waited to say, let me research, see if I can do it better. Let me see if I can be the best rapper ever. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, no, well, I was going to say, like, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, when I did my film, I really studied first time. I studied directors that I loved, but I studied their first movie. You know what I mean? So, like, Christopher Nolan, Robert Rodriguez, I studied those movies because, you know, I think people make the mistake of, like, I want to be Beyonce. It's like, okay, well, how about you study Beyonce's career path and start where she started and go from there, you know? And I also think, and I think, James, you'll agree with this, you know, Flobo, it's not like you took a shot in the dark. Like, it was a risky endeavor. It was something that you've never done before. But you're a comedian and you're a DJ. You know what I mean? So it's not like it wasn't that fully far-fetched. It's like someone going in to write a book for the first time. It's like, okay, that's a risky endeavor and it's a first-time thing. But it's like, okay, well, what can I lean on? Well, in high school, I used to be a great writer. I do great research and so forth. So you lean on the skills, and I think people don't really look at the tools that are already in their tool bag to set them up for that kind of success.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, it's for me, because I'm a little older than you both. For me, it was that whole, and I talk about my age all the time, folks. And I love it. It's just that it's because I started my late 30s, and then completely changed my life at 40. And so to come into the entertainment field in your 40s, it's very different than in your 20s or 30s. It's just Hollywood looks at you very differently, like, and your friends do too. They're like, "What are you doing? You had that job for the last 10 years, and pension coming in 10." You know, they look at you like you're crazy. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's been a series the last 13 years in the business. This month, it's been a series of, what are you doing, James? What are you doing in my 40s and 50s? I start things new both decades. And so for me, I've had to tell myself, well, when you create content, people have a right to not like it. People have a right to say that it sucks. People have a right to say, James, what is your old ass doing with the dance song? People have a right to say all of that stuff. Your book is too short. This is too that. And trust me, you know, we've all been there. I've had the worst comments online on things over the years, and death threats and everything for things that I've done. And I had to learn that's okay. That's their right to be shady towards me and not like it. But it's not going to stop me from trying something and doing it. That's where I had to kind of go. I had to kind of step above that and just go, if I want to write a song and make it a dance song, do a dance song. And if I enjoyed it and enjoyed the process of doing it, and I can stand by the work, then I'm good. Whatever happens after that, it's like giving birth to, having kids. It's like, so your kids may turn out to be little shits. Who knows? I mean, who knows? I don't know.
My kid's ugly, but it's okay.
It's okay. They may be ugly, but you know, I gave birth to it, and someone's gonna find it cute. And that's how I look at it as. I love my daughters. They get on my nerves half the time, and I love them other times, and that's just how it is. I mean, but I stand by them. I do. Luckily, my kids are cute, and my grandkids. But I mean, I stand by them. Just like my work, I stand by all of my work. And no matter when I started, and we all know there's many examples of folks who started later in the business, had success later in the business. We know this, but Hollywood consistently my friends would tell me, you shouldn't try that. Or James, I don't know about it. They're just like so concerned based on my age, not on anything else, not on my ability, but based on my age, should you do that? Is that okay? I've heard that over and over the last 13 years. Then every time I do it, it's successful. Then they're like, oh, I love that song. Oh my God, that show is so good. I'm like, oh yeah, you weren't on my side, like, when I was doing it. But it just makes me laugh. But that's to go with you guys. It's scary out there to put stuff out there and try something new, but you just kind of have to, or else you just wither and die.
True.
Well, I think
if you don't work a muscle out, it atrophies for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, obviously the default is a lot easier to say like, hey, if you do this, you're going to fail. You know what I mean? Like it's just easier advice to give rather than, and it does, some you could say it's negative, but at the same time, like I think some of it does come from a good place of not wanting to see other people do fail, but it's like, you know what? I think there is a way to nurture that and, do it in a positive way of like, hey,
see, Phil, I'm going to interrupt and say that most of that stuff is their shit.
It is.
So it's not from a good place to me. It's from their own insecurities and fears that they try to throw it on you. It's like, if someone tells you something, just say, congratulations, good luck with that. I don't need to hear all the things that could go wrong. So to me, I don't cut slack anymore with that. I used to, but not anymore. Because to me, it's your stuff that you're trying to put on me. It's all your angst, all your fear, all the things that you didn't do. When I'm trying to do something and you put it on me, nope, I don't want it. Don't tell me that. Just don't say nothing or just smile. I mean, I don't want to hear that. So for me, I don't give that slack anymore. I just don't.
Fair enough. Flobo, slack or no slack?
It's no slack, man. Because
that's not really the question. You can talk about it in a different way, but
it reminds me of when I was a kid, and no, sorry, not a kid. When I wanted to go to grad school, and I did 4 years in broadcast communications, and I said film is the thing I want to work on, and that's what got me into California. So that's how it ended. But I remember my dad. And I love him to death, but he came here in this country in the 70s. He worked as an electrician, New York City Transit Authority, like the most blue collar things. I mean, he was a professional, but let's be real. He's like, well, you don't learn to do film. You should probably learn something else to fall back on. And that's something that you hear a lot if you have immigrant parents or minority parents. Yeah, do what you want to do if they give you that. But do something else to fall back on. And what we're seeing now is that there ain't nothing to fall back on. All my lawyer friends are out of work. You know what I mean? So if I have one shot to do something I love, I'm gonna do it till the wheels fall off, man. And that's what that pushes me. So I hear things, and that's why I'm more nervous when I release stuff. But I'm like, what's the alternative? Me sitting in the office selling hand sanitizer, which was my last corporate job. I sold hand sanitizer pre-pandemic for a living. I can't go back to that, man.
Could have made a bundle.
Yeah, wrong timing, right? But until then, Alone the Club, What's Up Flobo After Hours, all this other stuff is happening because that I know what the alternatives are.
So, okay, final question. How do you view it? How do you know when something's your passion versus you're going for it because it is the thing, right? So we look at entrepreneurship. We look at, being a content creator and whatever capacity you want to define that as. I mean, it's like, I believe it's right. The 80s kind of really defined of like the financial sector of like, ooh, this sexy thing to go towards. And it's like, well, what happened to like NASA and scientists and so forth, Like at what point is it a cultural thing versus this is your actual passion? I'm curious.
Can I go first with this one? Because I felt like I mentioned this the last time I was on the show, is that when I did stand up for the first time, it was a Living Social coupon for comedy class, and my set was 3 minutes, and I knew that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to be Flip Wilson, if that could be that way. I'm an old school heart, because kids my age don't know who Flip Wilson is.
I do.
But to answer your question, where I know it, it's the good tired. Like I look at my schedule today or this week. I have a vlog series, a late night talk show, a podcast, a wrestling show, a Star Trek show. And when I go to bed, it's the good tired. I'm not going, oh crap, I have another podcast. Yeah, I may have an oh crap, I have to post this image on Instagram to make sure people know it's around. But doing that makes me feel exhausted in the best possible way. Now compare that to getting a good paying job in Orange County, driving 120 miles a day, or going door to door selling Nigerian hand sanitizer. That's a bad tired. It's like, I am worth more than this. And so I know that this is the path I want to do. That's why I hope that success comes the way I'm looking at it, or I'm foresighting it, because I feel as if this is the path for me.
Okay. Right on.
The difference is I just know it's my passion. I've had many careers that I went into thinking I want to do them. And I did not enjoy them. I did the jobs very well. I was one of the best workers in all those different careers. But I noticed at my last career, when I was an insurance, farm, and ag specialist, that my bosses ate, breathed, chewed up, slept insurance. They could talk about it 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I admired that. Every article, back then it was not on social media, so every article, every magazine, and the latest anything. I thought, God, that would be really interesting. Cut to me becoming a professional organizer years later, and I realized this is it. I just knew it. I could talk organizing for the rest of my life. That's what I knew was a passion. I wanted to talk about every aspect of organizing. When I got to life coaching, my first class, I was transformed. My teacher trainer transformed. Lori Cameron, a girl. I was transformed. I wanted to learn all about human behavior. When I got into my radio show years ago, I always wanted to do radio. I always thought I had the voice to do radio. I sat down in the booth with my little Darth Vader sitting there, my engineer in the room across from me, and he counted me in, and I just knew that was it. When I got to AfterBuzz TV, my first TV hosting, web hosting job, when I got there and I sat down to host for Edition Days, back then it was just Days of Our Lives After Show, and I sat down next to Mark J. Freeman and Peter Ramos, and I sat in and I went, this is it. I can do this for the rest of my life. It feels like I can do this for the rest of my life. So for me, because I'm a little older than you guys, I don't think I have retirement. At this point, I want to do this until I want to drop dead on camera.
Wow. That's very specific.
On stage or somewhere. I mean, I feel like I just want to be doing what I love, and that's how I go. I mean, I think it's a privilege to do this. It's a privilege that I get to be in a country where I can do this. We talk about all the bad stuff in this country and everything. It's there.
Mm-hmm.
The obstacles in Hollywood, they're there. But I am privileged to be able to have my own shows. I'm privileged to talk to you guys. I'm privileged to live in a house. I have ancestors who couldn't even do this just 2 generations ago.
Same here.
I think about my grandmother who worked 4 jobs, 3 of them as janitors, when she first got to Los Angeles with her 5 young boys, single, in the 50s, woman of color. I think of her and all the sacrifice she did so that all my uncles have degrees. We're all very successful professionally. And then her grandchildren, we are successful in our own ways also. So I look at it that way, just going, this is incredible. I'm privileged to do this. That's how I look at everything.
That's a great place to end, isn't it?
Don't forget the ancestors.
That's right.
It doesn't. Seriously, 2 generations ago, my grandparents were butchers, sugarcane cutters. Like it definitely puts things in perspective. Absolutely.
It does.
Well, the last part obviously is let's round the horn. Tell them where you can, people can check out more stuff. We'll start with Flobo. You want to go first?
Oh, cool. I usually I want to know where Game Lott Juniors are sold, but
I hate that term, by the way.
I know you do.
How do you think I feel? I'm a brother.
I know you don't. I don't give a fuck. I know you
I'm
guys
like,
don't.
what am I don't want to take it to Wall Street. Come on, what the fuck?
I'm still saying it. I don't care. I'm still saying it.
You can follow me at Flobo Boyce on Twitter, at Flobito on Instagram. Flobito.com is a website, but me personally, if you want to know all the shows I'm working on, hit up newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW Amsterdam.com. New episodes of the podcast every Thursday.
I am doing my first Clubhouse room On this Thursday, my friend Cesar Ariaspino talking about overcoming the fear of starting something new, as we kind of talked about tonight. That'll be this Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're on Clubhouse, come find me and watch my first talk, my first room I'm doing.
I'm gonna devolve this. How does that work? I don't have Clubhouse. I don't.
It's the hottest new thing. You have to be invited to be on there.
So if I'm not invited, so none of the people that are listening can watch this shit if they don't have Clubhouse? I can't do it. I don't have Clubhouse.
That's your problem. Okay, so I'm giving
All right, I'm sorry that I'm not listening because I don't have fucking Clubhouse.
Social media privilege. That's your problem.
I'm giving my outro, and it's for those who do that. Also, I have so many new series and things going on JLJ Media. Follow us on YouTube at JLJ Media, and also on any streaming service platform, wherever you get audio podcasts, go to JLJ Media. I have over 35 shows that are out there. You can check them out, including all my audio dramas and podcasts and interviews. You can check that out. And of course, you can follow me at you guys' favorite place, where all James Lott Jr.'s are sold, at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms, including TikTok.
Awesome. Well, I'm at Phil Svitek, and I've linked to this, all their stuff in the description box, so you can check that out. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me, and this has been a pleasure.
Anytime.
The best three-way ever.